Very good evening to you. Welcome to the West Ham Weekly on the West Ham Voice. Thank you all for joining me on a Monday night. We won. How about that, hey? We got 3 points. We're out of the relegation zone. What's to worry about? Come on. We're on the up. We're European football coming up again, heading for the mid-table in the Premier League. I mean, what's there to be concerned about, hey? Look, it was a turgid performance at the weekend against Southampton. Probably, I mean, the only consolation is that Southampton were a hell of a lot worse than we were. And unfortunately for them, it looks like it's curtains for them completely. I can't see them surviving. But we've given ourselves a chance, haven't we, with the win that we had at the weekend. But let's not deny it was turgid. I'll come to that later on. There'll be the usual updates tonight on the academy, the women's team, all the latest player updates. There's quite a few stories coming out about the different players, Scamacca, Areola and stuff like that. And of course, there's the merry-go-round. That is the managers in the Premier League. Another two have lost their jobs on Sunday. And of course, as always happens, whenever a half-decent manager loses his job, straight away linked to West Ham United. But is there any truth in any of these managers potentially coming to West Ham? Probably not in the current season, but I wonder what might happen in close season. So we'll come on. Well, let's start with that, actually, because as I've said, two players have lost their jobs. Brendan Rodgers and Graham Potter both lost their jobs at the weekend after both teams got defeated. Chelsea losing 2-0 at home to Aston Villa, who were doing really well under Unai Emery. Lost his job, and then Brendan Rodgers lost his job after Leicester City fell down into the bottom three at the weekend. Look, for Leicester, it happened to what happened to Leicester happened to us earlier in the season, where Crystal Palace nicked a winner in the dying seconds of the game. They're now second from bottom, 25 points. And they've, I guess, would you feel sorry for Rodgers? Yeah, it's quite interesting. Rodgers, he's had good times at Leicester City, winning the FA Cup, etc. But it's not gone so well for him this season. And many people are suggesting it's more because they haven't had a proper investment in the squad than anything else. Rodgers, they suffered their 11th defeat. He suffered his 11th defeat for Chelsea at the weekend. Now they slip into the bottom half of the league as well. Look, there's no danger of them actually being relegated. I mean, they're on 38 points. They're safe. But it's been by far a pretty disastrous turn of events at Chelsea over the season. But who feels sorry for them? I certainly don't. Look, they're still in the Champions League. They face Real Madrid in the quarterfinals, but it just hasn't gone well for Potter. He must be glancing an enviable eye over at his previous club, Brighton, who are currently sixth in the league with 2 games in hand over fifth place Spurs. By the way, if you know the Spurs result or the Spurs score so far against Everton, do let me know. And with those 2 games in hand, and depending on goal difference, they could go above Spurs. I mean, all right, Spurs might win tonight or whatever, but they're on the shirt tails, and they could be on the shirt tails of Man United and Newcastle if they win their 2 games in hand, Brighton. It proves, again, as it does most times in football, the grass is not always greener on the other side, is it? Sometimes staying in the job that you do, and you do well, for a team that kind of understands you and your processes might be better than going to a job where you're kind of out of your depth. It's shades of David Moyes when he left for Everton for Man United. You know, he thought he was ready for it. He thought he was ready for the next big challenge, and he fell flat on his face. And it looks like, unfortunately, Potter, having been sacked at Chelsea, has also fallen flat on his face. There was a time when the likes of, we were looking at different managers, when Mauricio Pochettino and Thomas Tuchel were available. And Sullivan was asked, are you looking at replacing Moyes? And he said, who's better out there, to do the job than David Moyes? Would he be glancing over now at one of these two managers and wondering, quite possibly, that they might be a better fit for West Ham United than the likes of Pochettino or Tuchel in the past? I don't know. I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Like I said, not so much. You're not going to see an awful lot happening during this season. But I wonder if any conversations might start be having on one of these managers when the season comes to a close. Brendan Rodgers, 50 years of age, wealth of experience in management, 17 years of experience. He managed the Chelsea youth team. He moved into senior team management, managing Watford, Reading, Swansea, of course, Liverpool, Celtic and Leicester. He's got an overall 51% win rate. Success rate, and by far the best win success rate, and you're going to say probably not too difficult, was when he was at Celtic, a 70% win success rate. He got into management after spending a large amount of time traveling around Spain, studying different coaching methods, and was eventually invited by Jose Mourinho to leave his role as academy director of Reading to join the Chelsea Youth Academy as their head of youth at the academy in 2004. He kept that position under Avram Grant, remember him, and Luis Felipe Scolari as well. Rodgers believes in his team keeping possession of the ball and is playing a good flowing passing and attacking game. Defensively, he likes his team to put a lot of pressure on the opposition as well. And he's he's capable of varying his formations. In 2013-14, when he managed Liverpool, he interchanged from a 4-5-1, 3-5-2, 4-4-2, 4-3-3. He looked at the squad he had and changed it accordingly, according to the opposition that he was playing, according to the team, the players that he had available to him. He knew how to make the most of the players available to him. Steven Gerrard described Rodgers as one of the best one-on-one managers that he's ever come across. So he's the sort of manager that will take you to one side, have a quiet word, give you some, build you up when you're not feeling at your best. Sounds like a perfect fit, doesn't he? With the kind of squad that we've got. With Moyes not making the best use of the players that he's got at his disposal, the way he treats certain players like Ben Rama, etc., where he doesn't put an arm around them. Could Rodgers be the sort of manager that might, elevate this squad? We don't know what league we're going to be in next season. I've got a feeling after the weekend we'd probably be okay-ish, and we also don't know which of our players are going to want to stay or go if Moyes stays in charge. I know there's an awful lot of noise with the board saying, oh, he'll be here end of this season. He'll be here next season as well. But I don't know. Rodgers, he's got a good, he's won things. He's won the FA Cup, the Charity Shield. He's won things in Scotland, etc. They ended up going down to a couple of seasons, last season, when they were in the Europa League. They went down to the Europa Conference where they were beaten semi-finalists by the ultimate winners, Roma. So he's got experience of Europe. He's got experience of the Premier League. He's got a wealth of experience in football. And what's not to like? I think he'd be an interesting prospect. And I know there's been an awful lot of talk about maybe Spurs coming in for him and maybe him even going to Chelsea. Imagine that. And I don't know. I think I'd be interested in Rodgers, but would Sullivan be interested in having a quiet word with him now before it's too, sound him out, see what he might be interested in next season. And what about Rodgers? After spending coaching time in university teams and the Ghanaian women's team and also the Swedish club Östersund, who were playing in the fourth tier of the Swedish league, you can't say, he started at the top. He became manager of Swansea when they just got relegated in 2018. But he was only there for one season. And then, he became manager of Brighton in 2019. He built a stable but modest team with their highest finish in the league, having been ninth, which was last season. When Chelsea came calling, I think it was a bit of a surprise, to be quite honest with you, that he seemed to want to make that giant step from Brighton to Chelsea. Was he ready? I don't know. Look at what's happened. Many will say that Potter is a good manager, but many will also talk about Brighton and what they're currently doing at the moment. They're doing even better without Potter. So is it Potter or is it the system at Brighton that made him so good? He's been recognised for his progressive and unconventional coaching methods. Potter describes his team as a tactically flexible, attacking, power-based, possession-based team, whatever that means. Deployed a flexible 3-5-2 formation when he was at Östersund, and he went on from there. Former Celtic and Barcelona player Henrik Larsson commented on Potter's pattern of play, stating he played all different kinds of systems, starting off a match on one way and then halfway through starting playing a different system and then ended up with a third system all in the same game. Now, imagine that. Imagine how upset we get with David Moyes when he kind of sticks to the same old, you know, the kind of defensive-minded formation doesn't seem to change whatever opposition we're playing against, whether it's the team at the bottom of the league or the top of the league, you know, always defensive-minded. And how refreshing might that be for someone like Potter to come in, start the team playing one way, change it up. And you might think, well, players get confused, but he actually, Larson also said, even though he kept changing the system, all the players knew exactly what they were doing throughout the game. At Swansea, Potter used 10 different formations and his team completed the most passes per minute in the Championship. As a young coach, Potter studied the training methods of Roberto Martinez. Is that good or bad? I don't know. And was inspired by a possession-based approach. Pep Guardiola admitted he was a big fan of Potter, saying that Potter's Brighton are a joy to watch and a joy to analyse, and that his players move with freedom and everyone knows what they have to do and they have the courage to play everywhere. Can you smell that refreshing sort of approach in comparison to what we have at the moment? BBC Sport published an article in October 2021 about Potter's rise as a manager and regarded him as a possible future England manager as well. So after his Chelsea stint, and given the way he likes to coach his teams, would he be able to get the best out of a squad like West Ham? I dare say he could. I can envisage both Potter and Rodgers being the kind of managers who might relish getting a better tune out of the current squad that we have. Rodgers with his experience and his love of nurturing young talent as well, and Potter with his unorthodox approach, but always with the aim of allowing his teams to play freely and fluently. I'd be happy with either. I don't know which one you guys would go for. Tell me in the chat and tell me what you think. Despite poor seasons for both managers, they're going to still be both in demand, without a doubt. Is Sullivan going to get them lined up, one of them lined up, ready for next season? I can't see it happening this season. I think we are where we are, and Moyes is going to stay until the end of the season. But I just wonder, regardless of where we end up next season, whether it be in the Premier League, whether it be in the Championship, whether we're champions of Europe and all that sort of stuff, I just wonder if Sullivan might be sort of thinking to himself, let's prepare the groundwork now. Let's not forget, he did that when Pellegrini came in. Moyes was there in his first tenure. And then Moyes thought that he might be staying, given that he saved us from relegation. But but Sullivan had none of it. He already tapped up Pellegrini. Pellegrini was ready to go in the pre-season. Would he do the same again, Sullivan? Why not? Anyway, let's come back to that later on, because what I have forgotten to say is hello to everyone. So let's go all the way up in the chat. Hello to the moderators. Hello to everyone in the chat. Thank you all for joining me tonight. Let's start with Debbie and Mark. Hello, everyone. Hello, mate. What a season it's been so far. One of the tightest relegation battles in ages. A record amount of managers' turnovers. What is it? 11 now, I think it is, in the Premier League. I dread to think what next. Well, Moyes might get sacked. Debbie and Mark again. Also, can't believe we have not took the slightest bit of interest in terms of Potter and Rodgers, who, in my opinion, are much better tactically. Who would love one of them to be appointed in the summer and Moyes go. I just wonder. I don't know. Am I dreaming? Would it happen? Who knows? Good evening, Foxes. The football is so boring and predictable. My goodness, it was turgid at the weekend. It really was. Steve, how are you, mate? Debbie and Martin, it's a big no for Rodgers, in my opinion. Don't want him anywhere near West Ham. Terrible record at Leicester this season. Lost 17 games. He would, in my opinion, be a backward step. What do you think now after what you've heard about what I've said about him? Steve, Cornet again. Cornet should have come on yesterday. I agree. How on earth is he supposed to get fit if he isn't brought on? I've got a theory about that. We're going to talk very briefly about Newcastle and what might happen there and some of the players that Moyes may use. Stuart, good evening to you. All well and said, I would beat Saints and we've 1 and 2 games in hand. They only happen to be Newcastle and Man City, but let's not worry about what the games in hand are. By the way, Stel, you should be a pundit because you're not negative and you talk sense. Thank you. Some people don't think that, but I'm glad you do. Moyes is the third longest set. He is indeed in the Premier League. He's no fool. He's the right man for the job. End of. Well, you know, as I think he'll get us through the season, to be quite honest with you. I won't deny that. What will happen next season, no, I just don't know. I just wonder where we'll be next season and who with. Good evening, Mark. How are you? Your predictions so far. What's the score between Everton and Spurs? Because I predicted that they'll draw tonight. Already so far, I did a show on Saturday morning and I kind of predicted what I thought the scores would be. So far, I got them all right. I should have put effing tenner on it, shouldn't I? But there you go. Graham, good evening to you, mate. Hi from Canada. It's still bloody snowing. Yeah, it's getting slightly sunny here, mate. I have to admit. How deep is the snow now? Good evening to you, Jack. How are you? Good to see you on Sunday coming out of the stadium. I hope you're well. Good evening to you, Howard. How are you? I hope you're well too. West Ham plan for Sweet FA. You never know. You never know. Good evening, Matt. How are you? Yesterday, I'm just glad we got the points. Same. I think we all are. But I do hope for a better performance against a very good Newcastle side this Wednesday. I'll go with another 1-0 or 1-1. You're optimistic. They played bloody well, didn't they, against Man United? They were very, very good. Matt, again, head-to-head. Played 49, won 14, drawn 13, lost 22. Lost 22. Let's hope we had another win tomorrow. No, not tomorrow, Wednesday. What am I talking about? Flamer, good evening to you. Rodgers is the best choice, in my opinion. He has the money. If he had the money Moyes had to spend, we'll finish 4th or 5th every season. The one thing about Rodgers, the one thing about for me, his name's gone already. The one thing about Potter for me is looking at Brighton at the moment and saying, look how well they're still doing, or considering Rodgers as considering that Potter has left. And I just wonder, they've got a system there. And like I said earlier, I wonder if Potter was just, pushing the system along, or was it Potter? Should I give Potter more credit? I'm in two minds about the two managers. I think they're both decent managers, to be quite honest with you. But I'm quite I veer slightly to Rodgers at the moment. Matt, Stel, what's your expectations on the next 5 fixtures? Newcastle, I'm actually going to go with a draw. That's what I predicted on Saturday. Fulham, I actually think we can beat Fulham, to be quite honest with you. Arsenal's a write-off. Bournemouth, well, it's away. And they're playing pretty well at home at the moment. So I will predict a win, stupidly. And Liverpool, why not beat them? They're terrible. You know they're going to turn up and do us, Liverpool, after playing crap for the last few weeks. So, yeah, I reckon 1, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 points there. Safety. We're safe already. Are the rumours true that Scamacca left the ground early yesterday? Yes, he did leave the ground early yesterday. I'll come to that in a moment. And Matt, again, keep Moyes, Rodgers at the end of the summer, or will that be too late? It depends on what Sullivan decides to do. Like I said earlier, I wouldn't put it past him if he taps up. Just asks him, "What's your interest? What you're looking to do?" It's quite possible that both Rodgers and Potter take a break from football at the moment and may look at their situation come the end of the season. We're kind of 10, 11, 12 games to go, or 11 games to go before the season ends, and then they might decide maybe I'll move there. There'll be a lot more movement in management, I dare say. Good evening, Buffalo. How are you? I hope you're well, mate. Good evening, Lord Patrick. How are you? We've got Super David Moyes. Neil, how are you? I hope you're well. 5:30. That's early. I hope you're well, mate. Thank you for joining. Bill, how are you? That's obviously no team spirit if Scamacca left the ground after failing a late fitness test. It's a weird one. I'll come to it in a moment. Andy, how are you? I hope you're well. At least we got the 3 points. Absolutely. That's about all you can say about the display on Sunday. Can see the Newcastle game being a bit grim after both teams' display yesterday. Yeah, we're going to be worried. It's going to be rather nerve-wracking. And if they get an early goal, then it's going to be scary. Steve, Flamer, Rodgers, leave it out. Just got sacked by a team that lost 17 games. Be a backward step. I don't know, I'm not so sure. Let's see. Good evening to you, Pete. I hope you're well. Good evening, Martin. How are you? It's very tight at the bottom. It is. But any team that's reached 30 points could start looking up. Crystal Palace, I think now they're going to be thinking, just another win or two and we should be okay. We just need another win, and we'll be thinking much the same thing as well. Chris, how are you? I hope you're well. Good evening, Glakavi. I hope you're well. Haven't seen you for a while. Thank you for joining. Good evening, Raynham. I hope you're well, mates. Thank you for joining. Flamer, my anxiety recovery will start when Moyes is gone. Doctors told me. Well, you better look after your anxiety between now and the end of the season then. The queue to be the next sacked. Well, who's going to be sacked next? It's take your pick. Who knows? Who knows why boards sack managers and for what reasons? It's rather odd, isn't it? I mean, I don't know. Anyone would you'd put your money on Moyes, wouldn't you, to be the next sacking? I wonder. I bet he won't be the next one. Good evening, Peter John. How are you? I see Antonio lead the ground 4 hours before the Villa game. Definitely no team spirit. When I called down to him, he looked at me with the expression of "How the hell you see me?" Did he do that? I didn't know that. Ralph, how are you? I hope you're well. Evening, Stel. Moyes out. That was total dross. Totally agree. Absolute dross. Jack, opening speech there, Stel. Assume you got the Ghent ticket. Billy Bob, how are you? Thank you for joining, mate. Good evening to you, Daniela. Stel did not expect a good game on Sunday, and we definitely didn't get a good game on Sunday either, did we? Pete would take either. Billy Bob, Potter has been found out. It was the setup at Brighton. See, that's the thing I'm thinking about Potter. Was it anything to do with Potter, or is it the setup? And look how well they're doing right now. Like I said, they've got a couple of games in hand on the teams above them. They could go to like a leapfrog Spurs, depending on the results around them. What a season they're having. They're doing better, aren't they, without Potter? Good evening to you, Paul. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining. Good evening, B-Night. I prefer Rodgers, the friendly Northern Irishman, over Potter. I'm veering toward Rodgers as well. Good evening, Shaky. How are you? I hope you're well, mate. Good evening to you, James. How are you? Sacking a manager now is crazy, even all. I don't think we will. I think this is it for us. I think we will have the Moyes until the end of the season. It doesn't look like we're going to get rid of him. But sacking, I mean, I don't know. Knee jerk. I don't know. Rodgers, it's interesting, isn't it? Because he kind of got Leicester out of danger. I think it was before the World Cup, and then they slid back down again. Is it too late? People will argue, as many Moyes out fans will argue, it's never too late to sack a manager, especially if his name is David Moyes. That's what I thought. Rodgers had no spending. I think I read that he spent 40 million, but I don't know if he did. I could be wrong. But I don't know if that was this season. But yeah, that's what I thought. I didn't think he had any money to spend. Excuse me. Ralph, I would even take Buck Rodgers over Moyes. Vino, not sacking Moyes is crazy. Better late than never. I don't think it will happen, to be quite honest with you. I think we do have it. And I'm looking at what might happen in close season and whether Sullivan might start tapping up a sacked manager or two. Jack, why should we consider these two managers? After all, they both appear to have been sacked for being as useless as Moyes. As other people are saying, maybe, quite possibly, with the money that Moyes had to spend, maybe someone like Rodgers could have got a better tune out of these players. But, you got a point there, Jack. That's true. Black Country, good evening to you. Still Moyes out. Mancini still. Some rumours spreading around still. Don't make me laugh. 10 million a year. No way Sullivan going to pay that kind of money. Well, I don't know if they're on. I read that. Apparently both managers are on 10 million a year. I can imagine Potter being on 10 million a year at Chelsea. They're just like, there you go, mate. Just what was it you want? 5-year contract, 10 million. There you go. 7 months later. Fuck me, he won the lottery, didn't he? I don't know if Rodgers is, though, to be quite honest with you. Mancini. I'd like Mancini, but wouldn't he be on a high salary as well? So it's 0-0 between them. So my predictions are coming right. If my predictions go well, wow, I will start being a gambling man. Finai. I would take the devil over Moyes if he was here on the chat. I would encourage him to apply. Good evening, Graham. I hope you're well. Everton are winning 0-0. That's a win for Moyes. Matt, didn't know Everton were playing Muppets tonight. Come on, Everton, do them. I don't want Spurs to win, but at the same time, I want Everton to stay down around that the bottom of the half. Bottom of the league. Oi to you, Simon. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining. Martin, Potter couldn't turn the Chelsea job down, but he should have stayed at Brighton. This is it. Like I said, grass ain't always greener, is it really? Something come. Look how many footballers go to other teams. They're playing for a mid-table team, and then a big team comes calling, and they say, come and play for us, and then you're going to sit on the bench for the next 2 seasons, and then you get forgotten about. Pete, that's what's going to happen to Rice when he goes to Man City. Pete, Moyes will never do. Moyes was never a good manager for manure. It was a bad move, wasn't it? Without a shadow of a doubt. Daniela, Rodgers looked bored at Leicester, and I think he walked out and therefore maybe allowed to manage another team till the end of the season. Could go for Potter. Well, apparently Potter tonight has turned down Leicester. Apparently, I don't know if that rumour is true, but apparently they have approached him and he said no. And wouldn't it be ironic? Rodgers goes to Chelsea and Potter goes to Leicester. I mean, come on. Jack, are Spurs going to get either of these two sack managers? I think I wouldn't be surprised if they'd be interested in Rodgers, to be quite honest with you. It wouldn't surprise me if they make an approach for him. But then there's other managers that are out of work at the moment that they're also eyeing up. I don't know. They might go for another foreign manager, and that all might end in tears as well. Who knows? Daniela, Rodgers looked bored. I've done that one. Bill, it says if the games today, tomorrow go against us, we straight back down again. We do. You know, I've made a prediction. I'm going to come to that in a minute because I've got it written down somewhere. But don't worry, bear with me because I'm going to explain my predictions and where I think we're going to end up on Thursday morning. Porro is garbage. You mean Potter is garbage, or am I? I don't know. Good evening, Lee. How are you? I hope you're well. Who else have we got down here? Let's go down. Good evening, Ed. How are you? Nice of you to join. I hope you're well. Good evening to you, Moisaurus. Dinosaur out, the human Roger in. That's my verdict. So Rodgers over Potter. Howard Potter is a coach, not a manager. What's the difference these days? Shaky. Why have the Spuds got such a lush green pitch? Because they put a lot of... David, good evening to you. I want Rodgers in. Seems more Rodgers than other. Potter brought the system into Brighton at the start. Okay, fair enough. I wasn't aware of that. And yet someone's come in and using it a lot better. Bring in Ted Lasso. Good evening to you, Aaron. I hope you're well. Okay, I'll tell you what. Let's go into the next bit of the show, shall we? It's the one you all love. Right, very briefly, the West Ham women's team played Liverpool at the weekend when they got a creditable 0-0 draw against them on Sunday afternoon. Both sides had chances at Chigwell with Dagny, can never pronounce her surname, our captain, and Yana Daniels having the best chances of the game in the opening 20 minutes, but neither side could find the breakthrough after 90 minutes. Paul Konchesky will take positives from the game, claiming their first point in the Barclays Women's Super League since early February, whilst keeping a clean sheet. So well done to them. It keeps West Ham in 7th place in the league, with Liverpool a point behind and a game in advantage. However, Liverpool do one game in hand, I should have said. If they win that, they'll leapfrog West Ham, obviously. So good luck to them. The next game for the women's team is only Man City on Sunday. What could go wrong there? The under-21s were played at the weekend, and they had a disappointing defeat at home to Blackburn in the Premier League 2. Highly competitive contest at Rush Green. Saw both sides going closer before the deadlock, but Blackburn will find 2 goals in quick succession to storm into an advantage. Caelan Casey's misplaced pass gave Rovers the opportunity to score in 35 minutes before the visitors' high press led to an unfortunate own goal by Keenan Appiah-Forsan just 2 minutes later. In the second half, we came back with a goal, but the game was finished with a 3-1 win. And we remain 10th in the league. And we could drop down further places if teams below us with games in hand win their games. Our next game is away to Crystal Palace on the 17th of April. Now, we should have been crowning the under-18s as champions at the weekend, but they faltered. I don't know if anybody watched the game. It's quite an incredible game between West Ham and Brighton, the under-18s. We blew our chance to win the league. We only need 1 point to claim the league outright. 2 very late goals. Was a heart-wrenching result for West Ham. They literally scored the winner on the last kick of the ball. Just a point from Saturday's game would have secured the under-18 Premier League for the young Hammers, who took a first-half lead through Callum Marshall's deflected strike. Gideon Kadua headed us into an early second-half goal, 2-0 goal. But a 4-minute spell soon dispelled the that 2-0 lead. And then in the dying minutes of the game, Brighton got another 2 goals. Really disappointing, but they go again. And I'm sure they'll get the point they need in order to win the league title outright. They're back in action on Thursday, by the way. I forgot to put, I thought I did. They're back in action on Thursday, semi-final at the London Stadium, the under-18s. I think the kickoff is 7 o'clock, where they play in the FA Youth Cup semi-final at 7 o'clock against Southampton. Do go. There's still some tickets left. Go and support them. I know Pete's going in the chat. I fancy doing it as well. I mean, £5 to get in to watch the future of West Ham smashing Southampton to get to the final. Why not? I think it'll be fantastic if they get really good support. What else have we got? Just a little bit of other news is about Daniel Kretinsky. I don't know if you read about him, but he had a bit of an outburst at the weekend, apparently. Apparently, the billionaire investor entered the referee's dressing room during half-time and was accused of acting like a blatant idiot. See, even money doesn't stop you from being an idiot. The Hammers co-owner behaviour was noted in the referee's official report from the match. However, it wasn't the West Ham game we're talking about. This incident happened at Sparta Prague between Prague and Brno, where the home team won 3-1. Kretinsky will now be fined. Wow, £2,000 he'll be fined. It's pocket money in his back pocket, isn't it? But he could actually also be banned as well. I don't know for how much time from going to the games, going to the stadium. I don't know because it's not the first time that he's been involved in some controversies as well with the club that he owns and he supports. It's interesting, because we keep hearing that Kretinsky is an investor at West Ham. He keeps himself at arm's length from the footballing side of things, but it's quite evident he's very passionate about Sparta Prague, and he goes to the games and demonstrates an awful lot more passion for Sparta Prague than he probably does for West Ham United. And it further seems to confirm that West Ham is just the investment for this man rather than anything more than that. Oh, well, never mind. Let's go into your chat and let's see what comments we have. Pete Gads, good evening to you. You know what they say, offence wins games, defence wins Europa Conference League championships. Do you think we're going to win the Europa League championship? I don't know. I guess we'll soon find out, won't we? What else we got? Shaky. Anyone on here had a guided tour of the London Stadium? What's it like? I certainly haven't. I'm not sure if I want to be quite honest with you. But if anyone has, please tell Shaky what it was like. Good evening to you, Talrag. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining. Martin. Brighton were a joy to watch even after Potter left. I don't know what they say about Potter, if anything. I don't know what that says about Potter, if anything. Well, as Pete McLaren pointed out, it was Potter who brought the system to Brighton, and it's worked really well. And they've got someone, they've got someone to do it even better. Amazing. Good evening to you, Sharky. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining, mate. Bill Clark. Good afternoon. Good afternoon out, looking behind the scenes and hearing a few stories. Oh, so you've been on it. So it sounds like it's worth going to. Sounds good. Simon, Rodgers would get another 20% from this squad as he would bring them together and heal the split in the squad. Good call. Chris, good evening to you, mate. I hope you're well. Didn't Rodgers turn us down before he went to Leicester? I don't know. That's an interesting comment. I actually don't know the answer to that, and I'll find out and let you know. Might be a red for Everton. That means Spurs are going to win, obviously. What's going on? Kane. Yeah, okay. Everton are down to 10, but it sounds very controversial. So let's see what happens there. Vinay, Klopp admitted he still had a job because of what he had done last 2 seasons and not for what he's doing now. How refreshingly humble, unlike someone else I know. Decore got a red, did he? Red card at the game. Good afternoon, Gary. How are you? I hope you're well, mate. I'm from Michigan. How was everything with you? I hope you're well. Daniela, yesterday's game was crap, but it was always going to be. Was it, though? I don't know. Everton are down to 10 men. Is it a penalty or is it... it sounds like Kane's cheating by some... let me know what's going on. Good evening to you, WHU. I hope you're well. We need a forward-thinking young manager. For me, Potter is worth a punt. Yeah. For me, it's Rodgers. But Potter, would you take him? Well, I think he's interesting. I think he's got an interesting past, without a doubt. Yuha, good evening to you. Didn't Potter say in an interview it takes 2 or 3 years to get the team playing the way he wants? He hasn't got 2 years or 3 years to do it at Chelsea. He had 7 months and didn't make it. Kane made a mill out of that. Okay, it's the usual suspect. So Kane has got a player sent off. That's not football, is it really? Who else we got? Good evening to you, John. I hope you're well. 13 I thought it was 11. 13 Premier League managers sacked this season. Got to be a record. Will we have any more before the end of the season? Ralph. Usually not a bad week. Oh, you're all saying hello to each other. I'll let you carry on. John again. Chelsea wanted a young progressive manager, but they're not a progressive team. They're an instantaneous club, and that's what they'll do. They'll do what they normally do. They'll go, oh, it is a penalty for Spurs, is it? Oh. Well, what does VAR do in that situation? I'm going to talk about VAR when it comes to our game, when I do a brief review of it later. What happens here? I mean, if Kane made a meal of it and Decore didn't do anything wrong, shouldn't VAR get involved in order to sort of say, to overturn that outcome? P-Man, good evening to you. I want that Lavia from Southampton in our starting 11. It was I was watching the guy. I didn't really see anyone that was any half. They looked really lackluster, Southampton, to be honest with you, mate. It felt like I was looking at some of the Southampton, but you always do look at the opposition and go, he might be good, he might be good. But I'll be honest, I didn't notice Lavia. I didn't really notice if he was that good or not. Peter, good evening to you. If I had a choice, either sack Sullivan or David Moyes, sack Sullivan. You can't sack a man who owns the club, but I get your point. Juha. Rodgers spent over 150 million in 4 years, but after owner's business went with COVID, he did not get to spend this season. I thought so. But then in that time that he was spending, they did do well, didn't they? Epic. I think a lot of fans will be devastated when we don't win the Conference League. People seem to genuinely think we're favourites to win it. I'll be honest with you. I do think we're favourites to win it, to be quite honest. I haven't looked at the clubs that are left in it. Even Fiorentina and clubs like that, I think we've got a really, really good shout. I think we should beat Ghent by rights because I think I mentioned it a few weeks ago. Ghent are better than Anderlecht and Anderlecht are below them in the league. And Ghent are not as good as Genk, who I think are still leading that league, the Belgian league. And we played them last season. And they look like no great shakes. So we should beat Ghent. Alkmaar, if we get through to the next round, Alkmaar could be a dark horse. Anderlecht, we should beat. We've already beaten them. I think we'll get to the final, and I think that we stand a very good chance. So Spuds have gone 1-0 up because of a dodgy penalty by the sounds of it. I heard Potter was on 12 million, 10 million, 12 million. I don't know. Throw a number up in the air. Who knows? Razor, still, until you get fans on the pitch and in Sullivan's face, he won't budge. He's the cancer in our club with Moyes. Rodgers would come if Sullivan actually wakes up. All coaches now, 3 years max. I won't lie to you, Razor. I didn't like the last time with the pitch. We had a pitch invasion a few years back against Burnley. I think it's the wrong thing to do. I get what you're saying, demonstrations and stuff like that, but I don't think pitch invasions is the right thing. We'll get points deducted first of all, if nothing else, on top of massive fines, etc. And I saw what happened in that game against Burnley when we had a pitch invasion. It put the players off. Ironically, there was a point where it looked like we might be getting back into that game, and then the pitch invasion just threw the players out of kilter completely. We weren't playing that well against Burnley. I won't deny, but I think that was a killer for us. I wouldn't like to see it, to be honest with you. I get your point about demonstrations and stuff like that. Totally get that. But pitch invasions I'm not really for. Good evening to you, NWO. I hope you're well. Potter had to go. Stuart, well, Spuds have helped us out 2 games in hand over Everton and Wolves. Yeah, but I don't like cheats. Good evening to you, Jose. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining. Graham. My Canadian buddy Pete knows zero about football, but he predicted a 1-0 win for us on Sunday, and he says that Newcastle are in big trouble on Wednesday. I'm guessing your mate still doesn't know much about football there, Graham. I hope you're well, Graham. Juha, I heard the same. Potter was on 10 million and cost Chelsea 21 million to get him 50 million to sack. That's, who'd have a job like that, hey? Who'd have a job like that? Porro, Spud players garbage. Okay, I didn't know you were talking about for a minute. Razor, Poch still available. Two play. We're not getting Poch. If we wanted Pochettino, we would have approached him by now, or we did approach him and he said no. So let's forget that. Poch still available. Plenty of options. Start protests. Sullivan will be beaten and run like a rat, like Burnley game, coins thrown at clown. Apparently came back to pick the coins. I know her name is Dagny. I know. I can't pronounce her. I can pronounce that. I can't pronounce her surname. NWO. Sorry, but women don't watch football. So who's it for? Call me sexist. I'm calling you sexist. I will still continue to tell you about the women's team, even if it takes me a minute of this show. James, a brilliant save from the fabulous one in the first half. Worth mentioning. He played really well. I'll get to that. I'll get to that later. Definitely. Jack. So until yesterday, excluding Potter and Rodgers, who weren't in the running, who else would be an ideal replacement for Moyes? At this moment in time, that I don't know. You know, people wanted Tuchel, people wanted Pochettino, etc. I think the likes of I'm still veering towards Rodgers. I like the sound of Rodgers. I wouldn't mind Rodgers coming into West Ham, to be quite honest with you. I get it about a young manager, about Potter, but what Potter said, someone said it earlier, it takes 2 or 3 years to get the team playing the way you want them. Are we going to be able to afford 2 or 3 years to give to any manager? It's interesting because David Moyes, when he came back to West Ham, he talked about, you know, the longevity of a manager in Premier League football, and that you don't get given the time anymore like you did in the old days to actually nurture a team, build a team, get them to play like you want. I know what you're all going to say. I know what Moyes has done. He's taken us backwards, etc., etc. But a lot of managers know this now. You don't have the time anymore to actually build a team over 2 or 3 seasons. It's got to be it's results driven, and it's got to be now. So if Potter is saying, or has said in the past, it takes 2 or 3 seasons to get a team playing like you want them to, is he going to come and be successful at West Ham? Rodgers, he's got the experience there. He knows how to nurture young talent. He knows how to use players in the right way. I said earlier in the show about the formations he's played, etc., etc. I like the sound of him. I wouldn't mind Rodgers in for a couple of seasons. He's 50 years of age. You know, for a manager these days, you know, he's not that old. But I get that there's younger managers, more managers who have got different approaches, different opinions, etc. But maybe for the next couple of seasons, someone like Rodgers might be a good shout. Shaky. Got a Liverpool versus West Ham FA Cup final program. If anyone wants it, how much are you selling it for? Razor, poor Enrique. Even still, all would be better than Enrique, Poch or Enrique. Sorry, Enrique is the one that's likely to go to Chelsea. To be quite honest with you, maybe even Pochettino might think, I don't mind that. I wouldn't mind going to Chelsea. One of those two. I don't mean it in a disrespectful way to us as West Ham, but I think these managers are thinking to themselves, if I want to go to a team in the Premier League, I want a team that's got, I know Chelsea are not in the Champions League position at the moment, but you might take the knock this season and go in, and build next season and get a Chelsea into the Champions League. Pochettino, Enrique might be those sorts of managers. I don't think they'd be looking, with the greatest of respect to us, at West Ham as a prospective club to manage. Could be wrong, though. You never know. Moyes like Fab's slow distribution. It was, even though he did save us, I agree, because it was defensive and waste time. Sounds twisted, but it's true. Areola between the sticks means more attacks, and the Moyes hates that. And I'm going to talk about that later on as well, interestingly. Razor. Steve Rodgers had his best players sold and no money for him, unlike Moyes, 180 million and gone backwards. And you're right. You know, it's a good point. I hope Kretinsky comes to London, Moyes, and invades the pitch to demonstrate against Moyes. Right, let's go into the next part of the show, shall we? And it's player updates. So, latest player news. Let's talk about loan updates first. Serie A, Sassuolo. I don't know if the game's over or not, but again, please, if anyone knows the score, please do tell me. Sassuolo were playing Torino in tonight's Serie A game, and Vlasic is back from injury. I know he's been playing again more recently. So if anyone knows whether he's played tonight, do let me know. There's some news about Vlasic and all this stuff about, whether he's going to stay in Italy, whether he's going to come back to West Ham United, etc. And it really has got an awful lot to do, by the sounds of it, with where Torino are going to end up at the end of the season and how much money they'll have available to buy players. He's got a few more games in the Italian league to demonstrate that will certainly be in Torino's interest to sign him permanently. However, the latest report suggests that Torino, if they finish outside of the European places, they may not have the cash to buy the player permanently. Now, we've heard an awful lot of rumours throughout the season, haven't we? We heard in the January transfer window that it was going to be signing for them permanently then. And I said back then they weren't going to do it. They were going to wait until the end of the season. That's what they're doing now. Then we heard about, trying to get a knockdown price for him. There was an agreement in his loan deal that he was going to likely to go to Torino for 15 million euros. What's that? 13.5 million pounds. But now it sounds like with Torino currently being in 11th position, I don't know, like I said, what the result is tonight. With Torino being in 11th position in Serie A, if they win that, it could elevate them up to 8th place. And then they'll be on the shirt tails of Juventus, but 4 points behind them in 7th position. If they do not make a European place, it's quite possible that they won't be able to afford to buy Vlasic. That's how tough it is for them. Now, he started off really well at Torino, didn't he? He started off in the first half dozen games or so. He scored 3 or 4 goals, couple of assists. Sorry, in the first 14 games, he scored 4 goals and 2 assists. But however, in the last 11 games, he's been out injured for a number of games. But since his return, etc., he's played 11 games. He's neither scored or assisted. So he's kind of got off the boil a little bit. And it would not surprise me if Torino decided not to go ahead with a permanent signing of Vlasic because he's shown a bit of inconsistency. He's had more game time. That's what we were calling for when he was at West Ham United, to give him game time, which he never got. He's got the game time now at Torino, but he started off really well and he's got off the boil. So it's going to be interesting to see whether Torino want to buy him outright or not. Now, my understanding is there is no clause to permanently sign him, but I could be wrong, but that's what I checked up and I was told there's no obligation to buy at this moment in time. Someone different, Arthur Masuaku, was involved in the Besiktas latest game against Fenerbahce at the weekend. It was 2nd versus 3rd in the league. And they walked away with an impressive 4-2 win, despite going down a player on the 51st minute of the game. So they had to play almost the whole of the second half with 10 players. The win saw them cut the points difference between the two teams and to just a couple of points. But Fenerbahce still do have a game in hand over Besiktas. Although Masuaku didn't get on the score sheet or assist, it's yet another game bringing him closer to potentially becoming a permanent signing for the Turkish team. Now, in his contract, apparently there's a 25-game clause. If he reaches 25 games, it will trigger a permanent move. Now, according to my calculations, he's played 25 games, but one of those is in the cup competition. So I don't know whether it's 25 games in the league or 25 games overall. If it's 25 games overall, then it's quite likely we might hear imminently, or maybe near the end of the season, that he will become a permanent player in the Turkish team, Besiktas, sorry. But if it's 25 games in the league, he's got one more game to reach that, and then the permanent signing will happen. He's having a good season. Well done to him. Really pleased for him. Other players on loan, Connor Coventry, featured for Rotherham. They too lost a player in the game against Hull City, but they battled to a 0-0 draw against them, which kind of saw former Hammer Domingo Quina sent off, but they showed resilience and good mentality to take an important draw. Since he's moved there, he's done quite well for Rotherham. He's made the central midfield position his own, and he's recorded 1 goal, 1 assist whilst on loan there, and he's helped his side to reach 10 points since his arrival there to keep them out of the relegation zone. So well done to him. I'm really pleased that it's going well for him. What about some injury news? Well, yes, that's Lucas Paqueta or Lucas Paquetá, depending on how you want to. I can't remember how he said his name, but you know who I mean. There were concerns of an image appearing on social media on Sunday night where it looked as if he might have picked up an injury. after the game against Southampton. However, there's nothing to fear because he was actually doing some oxygen therapy recovery. I've never heard of that before. Anyway, oxygen therapy recovery ahead of the game against Newcastle on Wednesday night. Oxygen therapy recovery reduces the degrees of muscle fatigue, lactic acid buildup, and is commonly used by athletes. I didn't know that, so good luck to him. He's not injured. I'm really pleased about that because he was brilliant at the weekend. Gianluca Scamacca, we saw, people asked earlier on, is it true that he left the stadium early? Yes, he did. Did he leave? Did he go storming out? No, he didn't. He was given a fitness test. He failed the fitness test and he decided to go home to watch the game. Now, okay, to be quite honest with you, it is a bit disappointing. I would have liked him to have stayed at the stadium to watch the game in the stands, where most players do when they're injured. They go up into the stands. Just to the right of us, we're in the Bobby Moore lower. You can see the players, etc., in the stands on the west side. So it's a shame that he didn't do that. It's a shame that he decided to go home. It does kind of beg the question as to what's going on. And I'll get to that in a moment because he's just signed a contract with a new agency. So we'll talk about that in a moment. He's got a 50-50 chance of making the game against Newcastle on Wednesday, but it's more likely he will be available for selection at the weekend instead. Right. That's the player news. The next bit I'm going to get to is the game itself. But before I do that, let's go into the chat and see what you have. NWO. I worked near Spurs recently. Their stadium looks a bloody airport. It's a beast. I won't lie, NWO. It's a lovely stadium. I hate admitting it, but it is a lovely stadium inside and outside. What more can I say? Ballon, good evening to you. Stel, did you get your Paqueta shirt delivered by the club? No, mate. I bought this years ago. It's not a Paqueta shirt. Anthos, good evening to you, mate. I hope you're well. Potter sacked, even though he didn't have any of his players. Moyes goes on and on. He's like a flipping ever-ready battery. Sharky, we need Everton to lose, though, Mr. Bong. I predicted a draw. They're going to ruin my night because I predicted it was going to be a draw. But losing is better for us, yeah. Moyes the most objective fan channel on Moyes' Claret Booze, particularly their callers. Most of them crack. John, are you there? Did you hear that? Good evening to you, Clive. Did you enjoy your holiday, mate? I hope you're well. Bloody hell, mate. Going out, sunning yourself. I hope you didn't get sunburnt. Good evening, anyway. I hope you're well. Thanks for joining. Good evening, Anthos. Anthos again. What do you think of Souček? More action in a moving statue. I'm actually really glad that he got subbed at the weekend, and I'm actually really glad that Downs came on. But for the first time, Downs had struggled to sort of get into the game. I was really, really surprised. I think he played all right, but I thought he'd be more, I don't know. He seemed to struggle for a little while. Razor, I married fine. My wife is great. Moyes will always be a loser and Rodgers wins things. Would prefer Poch or Enrique. I'm sure we all would, but we're not getting either. But Rodgers has a good CV, unlike shit Moyes. Look, I'm sure we would all like Roger, people like Enrique, etc. Rodgers is an interesting one. I just wonder. Now, watch this space. William, good evening to you. If we win the Conference League and stay up and then stay up, Sullivan will not get rid of Moyes. That is quite possible. But I don't know. I think it's become so toxic this season that I just don't think Sullivan will relish having another season like this. And Moyes will obviously turn around and say, well, I win things. I've won the European trophy for you. I've kept you up, etc., etc. And Moyes will have every right to say, although I know a lot won't agree with it, he'll have every right to say, I've won a cup. I've stayed in the Premier League. I need another season. But I think Sullivan doesn't like all this noise that's going around. One of the things that we know he's done in the past is kind of knee-jerked. He went for Pellegrini before because of the what was being said about having pitch invasions, etc. He doesn't like the noise around him, and I don't think he'll relish having another season where it's going to be the constant barrage of Moyes out. Even if he wins, I just wonder, even if he does win the Conference League and keeps us up, I wonder, William, I wonder if there will be changes regardless. Buffalo. Stel, did you see the allocation for final was only 2,000 for each club in the final? Which final? What, the Europa Conference League? No, it's 4,000 allocation minimum, but it hasn't yet been confirmed. However, it's quite likely it'll be around 4,000. The stadium is very much the same sort of size. It's around about the same sort of capacity as the stadium, that was used in the Europa Conference League final last season. That was around about 19,500, 20,000. Each team got 4,000, and then the rest went out to, I don't know, it was like neutral fans and all that sort of stuff. So it's quite likely that we'll get 4,000 again, if not more, if not a bit more, for the final in the Europa Conference. But 2,000, no. Goodness me, wouldn't be worth going to. Epic. Unbelievable that some fans actually think that Moyes can win the Conference League. I do. To be quite honest with you, I do. I think we've had a good run in it. I know there have been teams that we beat that many will say are, sort of championship level, even less than that. But I actually do think we stand a good chance, to be honest. I know he hasn't won anything and may never will, but I think we've got a good chance there, ironically. Sharky, Ghent won 5-0 at the weekend, currently sit 4th in their league. They're doing better. But I still don't, with Genk, who were top, we beat them. I mean, we got to be careful, without a shadow of a doubt. I'm not saying it's going to be a walkover, but I think we should have enough in our locker to be able to beat Ghent, to be honest with you. Daniela, Pochettino waiting for the Real Madrid job. That's possible. Razor, Moisaurus, best site is, and Nick and Gary Stills, good here too, but prefer people who actually see how bad Moyes is. I'm a winner and fans know nothing. Mate, you know me. You know how this season started off. I was very much, backing Moyes. And it had got to after the new year, etc., where things just got worse. Nothing improved after the World Cup. And then I said, okay, wait until the new year. And again, nothing improved. And I know, I no longer think he should be with West Ham United. But I do think that he'll still be here at the end of the season. Gary, I take Potter on Rodgers, to be honest. We need something new. It's interesting. I think there's quite a few people who have said Potter, but seems at the moment more have said Rodgers. And I don't mind either. But if Potter will take 2 years to get us going, I'd be worried. Let's scroll down a little bit. Good evening to you, Ultra. How are you? Moyes isn't going anywhere. Sullivan loves him because they're both like-minded. Moyes is a Triceratops, and Sullivan is a Tyrannosaurus Rex. There you go. You know your dinosaurs. Who else have we got? Let's scroll down. Is it still Spuds down to 10 as well? That's an interesting game. Good evening, Julie. How are you? Is it finished or is it still going? What's the time? It must be finished by now. So did they win 1-0 then? Oh well. Moisaurus. Ultra 505 for Sullivan, supporting Moyes has become a religion. He expects to win the league in the afterlife, so relegation does not matter. Lakavi. Vlasic played all 90 minutes of 1-1 in full time. Thank you for that. Much appreciated. Thank you, people. Huge, Matt. Thank you very much. Lord Patrick, I'm moving to my new place tomorrow. First time living in the UK, 42 years. You're all welcome. Well, you need to give us the address, Lord Patrick. Is it the manor born? Right, let's go into the next part of the show, shall we? Right, so let's talk about the game. We said it at the start of the show. There's nothing really to hide here. It was turgid. It was awful. It was a proper relegation battle, wasn't it? Where it seemed that neither team really wanted to win. And I'm glad we won. I never want West Ham United to lose, no matter what the situation is. And Naif Agurda was really pleased for him to get the goal. It was a really decent header. How ironic, really, that we've been talking about how we haven't been scoring from set pieces a lot this season. And then Agurd Kera, great cross, great free kick. And Agurd comes up and scores the winning goal. took us up from 19th place to 14th, as I'm sure you all know. But we're only a point clear of the relegation zone. There's still all to do. We can't rest on our laurels. We've got an awful lot of work to do still in the Premier League. It was the first of 3 Premier League games in a space of 6 days. As you all know, we've got Newcastle coming up on Wednesday, and then we've got Fulham on Saturday. It's going to be tough. The first 20 minutes or so of the game proved, it kind of demonstrated why both teams were 19th and 20th in the league, to be quite honest with you. Poor passing was poor. Every time we seemed to have an opportunity to press forward, the players either played it back or they were rushed into misplacing a pass, etc. It was frustrating. And as the game wore on, it got a little bit nerve-wracking. And we were looking at potentially, if we'd have gone into half-time on 0-0, I think that the atmosphere would have been toxic. The atmosphere at the stadium was flat. It was so flat. You know, we couldn't even rise to singing "I'm Forever Blowing Bubbles." It was like it was a hard sort of ask. You know, the fans there just didn't seem to have any energy. But look, on the 25th minute, Scamacca, his poor challenge on Jared Bowen led to a free kick, as I said. And whilst we were wondering, as I said, whatever happened to our set piece performances, up popped Thilo Kehrer. I think his why is he not taking corners? I think his free kick was excellently placed, and it went straight to the head of Naifa Gerd and headed home for the goal. Now, why on earth did it take 4 minutes to work out whether a Gerd was offside or not? The VAR has been brought in to make the game easier, better to referee, etc. It's just made it worse. It's so flat. Not only was the atmosphere flat, you know, when the goal went in, we cheered, we were happy, and then VAR, and then it was flat again. And when VAR finally said, yes, it's a goal, we just didn't have the energy to cheer again. It was like, why on earth did it take so long to make the right decision? He was clearly onside. Yes, there were other players who were in an offside position, but they weren't going for the ball, or they weren't near the ball, should I say. You know, a Gerd was onside, and it was just a really bad way of making a flat atmosphere even flatter, if that was possible. Southampton, they had their chances. Someone else said it at the beginning of the show. Fabianski kept us in it. He made a couple of really decent saves. And when I was concerned that Fabianski coming back from the injury, the facial injury, you know, he put himself on the line and he did what he had to do. The away side in the second half seemed better to me. They had more. I haven't seen the stats, but I wouldn't be surprised if they had more possession of the ball. Yeah, they hit the bar. Bowen hit the bar as well. Did we deserve to win? Yeah, but only because Southampton looked a lot poorer than we did. And I can't see a way back for Southampton now. I think they're done for. But never say never. It's still tight down there. You know, a team can still go on a run with 10, 11 games left in the season. Turgid, slow, not that many people will say that it was the most exciting game to watch. The concern was that if we perform the same way on Sunday as if we perform the same way on Wednesday as we did on Sunday, I'd be really worried against Newcastle. I've got that down for a draw, to be quite honest with you. But looking at the way Newcastle played against Man United, they were vibrant, weren't they? They got energy, they got pace. You know, it kind of worries me. And I know what Moyes is going to do. We all know what Moyes is going to do. It's going to be a backs against the walls sort of a game. He's going to try and keep it at 0-0, but I just don't know if we're going to be able to keep Newcastle out from scoring, to be quite honest with you. Look, it's quite possible if we lose, it's not going to be good for us. But if we win that game, or if we get anything from that game, that's another point towards safety. Everton, you've already told me, playing tonight. I suggested from that they might have got a draw out of that, but not so. Then there are games coming up in between our game and on Wednesday. And there are games with relegation threatened. Bournemouth, they're playing Brighton. I'm predicting there that Brighton are going to win that. Then there's Leeds United playing Forest at home. Leeds United at home playing Forest. I think Leeds will win that. I think managerless Leicester are hosting Villa. Well, given how Villa have done, I'm predicting Villa to win that. And of course, we host Newcastle, as I've said. And quite possibly, the league could look something. Well, it's ruined it now for me because I can't change the Everton one. Everton won't have those points now. But I think overall, if we get a point out of Newcastle, we'll stay in 14th place and we'll start looking up. We'll be just that little bit further away from the relegation zone and maybe start looking up. It ain't going to be easy. The game against Fulham is going to be difficult as well, away from home. But if we can get a point from Newcastle on Wednesday, that'll put us on 28, and it might just start leading us to a bit more security. After some, now going on to a couple of players, after some recent shaky displays from people like Nigel Gerd, he looked like he was back to his best against Southampton at the weekend. I like Emerson. All of a sudden, I remember saying quite early in the season, Emerson felt like an Italian Masuaku. I take my hat off to him. I think he's improved immensely on the left-sided defence. I kept saying that he could not play as a left back, only as a left wing back. He's proved me wrong, and I'm pleased that he has. Emerson looked good. Tilo Kehrer, much maligned this season. I think he had an excellent game as a right back as well. And we had the regulars, Jared Bowen, Fabianski, etc., were good. But the standout player for me, without a shadow of a doubt, was this man, because he played really, really well. Really, really good performance. I said a 10 out of 10 performance because he broke a record, which I didn't know about. He broke an 11-year-old record held by Mohamed Diarmi for making the most tackles in the game as a West Ham player. 10 tackles in that game. And he put himself about. You know, all this stuff about, oh, he's not putting himself up, he's not showing what he can do, etc. I take my hat off to the man. Not only is he skillful, and he showed some real lovely flicks and touches, etc. throughout the game, he also got his foot in. He's not afraid of getting involved. And I like that. And I think that's the sort of player we can grow to love. You know, not only is he skillful, but also determined to get in there. He had an excellent game at the weekend, I think. Really, really well done. You'd expect players like Declan Rice or maybe even Soucek or Downs or players like that, defensive-minded midfielders, to get their foot in. But I didn't quite expect it from Paquetá, and I'm really, really pleased for him. He's immersed himself in the challenges. He's doing really well. I think he'll just get better. Commendable performance. Really, really pleased for him. But there were a couple of players that didn't get a look in at the weekend. Now, we know Fabianski, I won't lie, Fabianski had a really good game. And he hasn't really let us down this season, to be quite honest with you. I'm still of the opinion that Areola should be our number one keeper. But you can't fault Fabianski for some of the performances he's put in this season. It was pretty evident to me that the minute he was back fit again, he was going to be Moyes' first choice. I worried about the facial injury. I was talking about whether he was going to wear a mask. He didn't do that. And as I said earlier in the show, he went in for one challenge at the feet of a Southampton player, given that the injury that he picked up. But he seemed to prove that he had no fears. The only thing about him, of course, is we know he's really slow in getting the ball out. We were shouting at him when he was playing in the second half. We were shouting at him to throw the ball out quicker. He just doesn't seem to have that knack to do so. But what message does this send out to Alphonse Areola, knowing he's been patient in trying to get his place in the team, and now that he managed to do so, I think he played 5 games, something like that, in a row. He's been dropped immediately for the returning Fabianski. So what message does that give out? Look, admittedly, Areola, when he came in and he came in during the 4-0 win over Forest, but then the next 2 games, the 3-1 defeat against Man United and then the 4-0 drubbing against Brighton, he was really, really unfortunate coming in for those. But yet I still maintain, out of those 7 goals being scored, all 4 goals were just a poor team performance against Brighton. But if he was at fault for any goal, it was the first goal against Man United in the Cup, where he should have demanded that ball, and it was an unfortunate own goal by a Gerd. But that aside, I don't think he's really done much wrong, to be really honest with you. I think he's been okay for us. I think, his ball distribution is a lot better. The speed of him distributing the ball is a lot better. He's a good shot stopper as well. I don't know where this leaves Areola, to be quite honest with you. I'm not so sure where it's going to leave him come the end of the season. We heard during the January transfer window that there was interest in him, in getting him to go out on loan, etc. But we couldn't afford to do that because the only other keepers we have at the moment are untried, untested youth goalkeepers. Now that we sold Darren Randolph. So we weren't going to let him go, but his international career is at threat. He must be wondering. He was promised by Moyes that he would be the number one keeper when he signed permanently. It hasn't happened. How long does he have to wait? Because Fabianski is 38 years old now. Oh, he will be 38 years old when the new season starts. There's an option, another option to extend Fabianski's contract for yet another year, which means that he could finish his career at West Ham at the age of 39. Look, like I said, Fabianski's proved me wrong with some of the performances that he's put in, but isn't that a bit of a risk to actually keep him yet another season? And what does that say for Areola? I don't think Areola will want to stay. And I kind of wouldn't blame him. If he's been promised that number one berth and hasn't been given it, then why should he actually stay another year as an understudy to Fabianski? It seems to me that Moyes has made his mind up that he doesn't probably trust Areola as much as we thought that he might do. So it's a massive concern as to what's going to happen. We already know we're going to have another squad rebuild at the end of this season with a number of players out of contract, the age of some players, etc., etc. Do we need to be going out looking for another goalkeeper as well? That's another concern. It's going to be another season like we've had this season where trying to bed in too many players in one go. And then, of course, there's Scamacca. And people were asking earlier on what happened to Scamacca. Well, the first thing that happened to Scamacca is he signed for CAA Stella agency, where he was after he left his previous agency, WSA, who actually severed ties with him because they said because of a lack of trust between them. CAA Stella, run by Jonathan Barnett and David Lee, are well known for their prestigious contacts within the game in helping get players, some of their clients, some of the biggest moves around. It's now huge, very, very likely that Barnett and Lee could now be scouring Europe to draw Scamacca away from the London Stadium in the summertime. And there's been a lot of talk about him going back to Italy with the big clubs like AC Milan, etc., all being interested. And considering their record in securing big moves, the 24-year-old could be tempted to have to make that move. I think it's too coincidental that he was playing silly buggers with his old agency. He's now got in with CAA Stella, who have got massive contacts around the footballing world. You know, you put two and two together and you tell me what you think. Look, he didn't play a part at the weekend. We already said this earlier on. He had a fitness test and he wasn't past fit. So instead of staying to watch the game, he decided to go home. Make of that what you will. I think it was wrong, but, you know, it's up to the player. The player's got no obligation to stay, but I think it would have been nice for him to do so. But I think maybe his head's turned. I think maybe he hasn't really enjoyed being at West Ham United. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because of... you know, I've been saying for quite a long time, it's because he's not being utilised properly. And I still maintain that. And I think a lot of you will probably feel the same way. Another Hilaire in the making. You know, always blamed Hilaire, whereas this time maybe we've got a little bit more sympathy for Scamacca, because we've now seen that Hilaire is actually a very good striker. But it's interesting what happened to him during the international break, where it almost felt like David Moyes was managing the Italian team, because what happens? Mancini brought him on for the last couple of minutes against us in Italy versus England, and then he got something like 20 minutes against Malta as well. So many of us are beginning to wonder whether Moyes has got a point. You know, he talked about his what was it? His playing statistics or whatever comment he made. And then Christian Vieri, the ex-striker, the Italian striker, came out and said much the same thing, that he expected more from Scamacca. He expected him to be playing more, expected him to be scoring more, etc. And I don't know. I wonder if maybe we've just got this one slightly wrong, and maybe Scamacca isn't the signing that we'd all hoped for. Who knows? There's still 10 games to go in the season. There's still a lot of games to play. Scamacca, like I said, is not likely to make the game against Newcastle, but should be available for the game against Fulham at the weekend. So let's see if he's utilised in any way there. And I'm not talking about a minute or two at the end of the game or leaving him stripped down, ready to go, and then not using him. So let's see what happens there. But it sounds to me that there will be a couple of players that we're kind of hoping maybe wouldn't leave at the end of the season that might well do so. Areola seems like might be one of them. If Fabianski does sign another extended contract, I think Areola will say, that's it for me. I want to go. And it looks as if that maybe Scamacca might be another one that maybe will want to leave West Ham. Right, that's it. let's go back into your chat and let's see what you have to say. WHU, 133 watt. Please do hit the like, subscribe, and bell notification and all that sort of stuff. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe to the channel. It helps me out and all that stuff. Who else we got? Good evening to you, David Starr. How are you? Spurs are so backs. What's so backs mean? I don't understand. Or maybe BAX means something else. Sharky, I've never seen West Ham win a thing though, Budgie. Have you not? How old are you, Sharky? Yeah, you're a young pup. I've seen them win a few things. Howard, country, and not talk about the Intertoto either. Howard, country roads take me, East London take me home. You're in no happy mood. Is it because we won? James, Britain's first city. What have the Romans ever done for us? Great film. Who else have we got? Green Streets. Budgie. Play most weeks and I'm crap too. You play what do you play most weeks? You don't play football, do you? Surely not. James, no, not James, Matt. If Scamacca is fit for Wednesday and ain't going to be used, Moyes is an idiot. Well, I don't think he is fit for Wednesday. It's more likely he'll be fit at the weekend. James, I wonder who started the rumour that he stormed out. I don't know. You know what it's like, James. You know what it's like. You know, there's so many rumours going around and you've got to take them all with a pinch of salt. You know, you do sometimes. There's some element of truth in some things, but not everything. Not everything has to be a drama, does it? But, of course, when it's got West Ham linked to it, of course it's a drama. I don't actually know who started the rumour, to be honest with you. Bees Knees, good evening to you. Pity we couldn't lose Moyes. He's like a toxic disease, destroying the players from inside out. Ralph, Scamacca can't stand Moyes' style of football. That's why he went home. Possibly. If I hadn't paid for my season ticket, no, I'll still go, unfortunately. Jeff, is West Ham going to Australia in July? An indication that Moyes won't remain as our manager? That's a good question. I covered that last week before, you know, because Moyes doesn't like travelling. He wants to go to Scotland. He wants to do the traditional things that he always does. And his nose would have probably been put out of joint by the fact that the club agreed well in advance, we're going to Australia. Simple as that. He probably won't like it. Goes back to my whole point at the start of the show. Are we looking at a potential alternative manager in the close season? Paul, Scamacca had a bad knee, didn't want a headache as well. Bees Knees, worst style of football. We played in 50 years. The buck lies with Moyes, not the players. Well, bit of both, but I agree. It's the tactics that are, I mean, you know, he did go for, he wanted a sharp shot at 1-0. That, of course, gave Southampton the momentum. They had most of the ball in the second half. And they had a few more chances than we had in the second half. And I'm glad we got through it, to be honest with you. Oh, was it 1-1 in the end? Don't tell me it was 1-1. That means all my predictions are right. Tell me, is it Spurs had a man? It's what? Oh, I'm a guru. I've got every single relegation result right so far. Oh, good evening to you, Christophe. How are you? Watching West Ham like watching AJ boxing. Scrappy wing, nothing to write home about. It was poor. Billy Bob. Clayton Booze, Nolly was epic. C-bombs everywhere. Clive, burnt like toast, peeling like a snake, but had a great 10 days. Good for you, mate. Glad you enjoyed yourself. Paul, if Moyes doesn't go, the players will. There's that chance, which is why I said earlier on about Sullivan. I wonder what Sullivan's thinking. I said earlier, you know, I'm not sure he'll like all this noise, etc. He wants a peaceful life getting in his old age. And also, if there are threats that players are going to leave, we already know we're losing quite a number of players. The last thing we want is a walkout of players who are on long contracts. You know, Sullivan won't like that, which is what makes me think that maybe, just maybe, there might be something in the pipeline with regards to an alternative manager for next season. Matt, win the Europa Conference, keep Moyes for 23-24 until another bad run of wins and move on. I don't know if our hearts will take it. Good evening, Garino. How are you? Thank you for joining. Jonathan, how are you? The board have a history of reviewing the manager's performance at the end of the season, so it stands to reason they won't do anything till then. I don't think they will. I said it already. I think this is more about what they're planning to do potentially for next season, which is why the likes of Rodgers, the likes of Potter being available might just be a more suitable or kind of manager for West Ham, and maybe Sullivan might have his head screwed on and pick one of them or approach one of them before it's too late. Martin, don't think Moyes will be sacked, and I think Moyes has no intention of staying when the season is finished. I don't think Moyes will be sacked. No, I don't think he will be. And I think Moyes has no intention of staying when the season is finished. It sounds like, yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I think Moyes might have just had, what Moyes wants is to win a trophy. He wins the Europa Conference. He's got that down. He can walk away and finally say, I'm a winner. Daniela, look, was an edgy game, no pattern to it, and that's why I said I did not expect a good game. I agree, it was an edgy game, very. Howard, to affect Sullivan into change, you have to hurt his pocket. Hang on a minute. To hurt Sullivan, you have to stop buying dildos, people. Razor Gate Show, thank you very much. You're a good kid, thank you again. You terrific sites, thank you again. And Gonzo and GL2, thank you again. Keep it up. And thank you for watching, Razor. I really do appreciate it, mate. I really do. Jackie, good evening to you. Oh, keeps going. Keep losing the screen. Tottenham are useless. What the fuck? Well, we don't. Well, it's the irony. See, I predicted a draw. I'm getting that. Oh, but yeah, I kind of understand why we would want Spurs to win. Flemmer, still, you were wrong about winning the cup under Moyes will win. You just don't know, do you? This is the beauty of football. This is the beauty of football. A drama unfolds in front of you. You just don't know what the season is going to bring. I don't know. Trudge, good evening to you. I hope you're well. Keane decided to spank in a long ranger effort in the 90th minute. Keane, what? The man that we were all linked to and everyone was like, never again. Apparently he's playing really well for Everton again, isn't he? Apparently he's having the time of his life. Bees knees, terrible, and under Daesh. Terrible, boring back-passing football. Very, very bad. Worst I've seen this season. Shocking, awful. Moyes out, you're clueless. Yeah, a lot of... Look, we were there. We watched it. We were like, how much worse can he get? And as I said at the beginning of the show, if we play like that against Newcastle, I fear the worst. I really do. Garino, think Everton will be okay. So result tonight, not really that important in my opinion. As you can see, they're fighting to stay up. Christopher, Potter, Rodgers. Yeah, we had that one, mate. For me, it's Rodgers. There are a few people that like Potter because of his different approach, unorthodox approach. But I like Rodgers for his, the experience he has as well. Jack. Don't be overwhelmed by Ghent's 5-0 win. It was against the bottom of the team. There you go. Bottom of the league. So there you go. I think if we can't beat Ghent, I would be worried. Ashik, good evening to you. West Ham needs to win Europa Conference League and to avoid relegation. We know. Garino, I live in cloud cuckoo land. I still think Moyes one day will play two up top. Well, he won't. Yeah, do you know what? What was the game that they showed on YouTube the other day? Where I saw Allaire and Antonio playing in the same lineup. And then I thought, fuck, well, that couldn't have been. That must have been pre-Moyes. And then it was actually Moyes. I can't remember the game. And I'm like, what? So he has done it before. He does know what it's like to put two people up front. There you go. Daniela, yeah, housewarming. Patrick, you haven't given us your address yet. So get that address to us so we can all come round. Garino, we get trounced on Wednesday while Moyes tries to defend for 70 minutes and it will get toxic. You know what? I don't want to say it's a free hit on Wednesday because I don't think it is. Excuse me. No home game should be a free hit. But I don't think, because people aren't expecting anything, I don't think people will walk away disappointed if we get nothing. If it's a trounce, if we get trounced, that's a different matter altogether. But I actually don't, I don't think people are expecting much. I am. I'm expecting us to get at least a draw. But let's see. Let's scroll down. Raise it to a chic. I think we just avoid relegation, but we won't win the Losers' Cup. I don't call it the Losers' Cup. I'll tell you for why in a minute. Funny, really, that would suit Moyes to win a Losers' Cup, but he won't win anything in his career. The reason why I don't, any European trophy is a European trophy as far as I'm concerned. What's good about it is that you go into the Europa League straight after. So for me, it's not a Losers' Cup. I've said this before, the cups that have been around in Europe, European Cup, Cup Winners' Cup, Fairs Cup, Europa Cup, etc. There's always been two or three competitions in Europe. So for me, I don't see it as a Losers' Cup. I think it's a cup worth winning. Any cup, it doesn't matter. Get that one trophy, get the taste of winning a trophy. And it puts you into Europa League as well the following season. I don't know, Razor. I might agree with you on some things, but not on that, mate. Bees Knees. Feel sorry for the fans that paid good money to watch that crap. More enjoyment. Tooth pulled. Well, I might be having a tooth pulled out soon, so I'll let you know, shall I? Carino, VAR would check with a 360p resolution pre-VHS era. Twas in black and white as well. Why did it take so long? Why on earth? Carino again. Have nothing against Soucek, but if Moyes picks him against Moyes, it will be like death by 1,000 cuts. You mean against Newcastle? Yes. Trudge, we come out second half and sat deep. Wonder what that tells. We did sit deep. It was awful. We knew it was going to happen, and we all hated it, but we knew he was going to do just that. We knew he was going to, sit deep, defend the. You get away with it once, you might get away with it twice. You don't get away with it all the time. If that's what he's going to try and do against Newcastle, I do fear the worst. NWO. Bowen looked good, but Ings is not the answer. Well, what was it Moyes said? Because I forgot to put that in my notes about Ings. It couldn't work him out or something like that. That's because he's a striker, mate, and you can't work out strikers. So there you go. Daniela. Sorry, I think some of our fans are not, don't help. Like they decided en masse that we're crap and going to have to produce a miracle to get us interested. It is a shame, but I mean, I get why people are really upset with the way we played, Moyes, etc. The way he's set the team up. He's kind of running scared. So you go to type, don't you? When you're running scared, you go to type, and for him, going to type is defend. You can't do it every game. You get caught out at times. Gary, I think Ings is fine. Moyes just doesn't have a clue how to use a striker. Black Country, Moyes press conference, Thursday, Sunday, backwards manager. Clive, over 100 of the people are watching. Need to hit the like button. Please do. Mr. Burden, how are you? Evening still. In Moyes we trust. More importantly, how can you go out to a restaurant and have vegetables only where there was meat? You don't get look. You missed the joke, didn't you? I went out with my missus and a mate, Churchy, who's a West Ham fan. We took him out for dinner the other night. And we went to a Turkish restaurant, mate, where they had more meat than you can bloody careful. We had 4 different dead animals on the plate. And we had a side salad. It was a joke, Rupert. It was a joke. Carino. The players have been moised, so have the coaches, the fans, and even the board, it seems. That takes some doing. I do really think he won't be here next season. Georgie Sutherland. Comeback kid David Moyes, 3 points. See, some people like him. Some people like him. Usual suspect. The football played this season has stunk the stadium out. It was awful. I won't lie. So I didn't leave the stadium thinking that was great. We got 3 points. I left feeling kind of a little bit deflated, really, by the performance. Lord Patrick. I will piss myself laughing if you lot wake up in the top half on Thursday morning. We won't. We can't get into the top half because Chelsea have ruined it for us because they're 11th and they got 38 points. So we're still going to be in the bottom half, but we might be on their shirt tails. It's a shame they didn't keep Potter any longer to see how much further down they could go. Paul, Paqueta was awesome. Shining light in the dark match. He was very good. Very, very good. Garino, I think we need to swap Soucek for Fornals or Lanzini or Benrahma or even Scamacca. I think I'd like to see Downs start, to be quite honest with you. If he's going to go defensive, then play a defensive-minded midfielder. And I like to see Downs maybe play. And that's it, actually. I said earlier in the show, I wonder, because someone mentioned earlier, why didn't he use Cornet? I think we're going to see a few changes on Wednesday. He's going to want to keep it fresh, isn't he? Because I think maybe in his mind, he's thinking, I'll get a draw against Newcastle and I'll try and go and win against Fulham. Maybe, I'm guessing. And if that's the case, then maybe he might be thinking of changing 1 or 2 players. And you might see maybe someone like Soucek be on the bench and 1 or 2 others. Ings will probably be on the bench as well. He might end up starting Antonio. He's spoken about Cornet, about playing him up front. I think it was a shame that he didn't use Cornet because I think Cornet running at that Southampton defence could have caused them problems. But I wonder if maybe he's kept 1 or 2 back for the game against Newcastle. And Cornet may be one of them. It could be that Soucek and 1 or 2 others may get a rest in order to play on against Fulham. Maybe. Trudge. Paquetá, worth about 30 million. NWO, Fabianski has got to make an error to get dropped. Areola is flat at crosses, hasn't looked amazing. Like I said earlier, I think Areola's made one of the mistakes he made was the first goal against Man United in the cup for me. Garino, Leeds versus Forest tomorrow. Hoping for a draw, but I think Leeds will win. I think Leeds will win that game, to be quite honest with you. I agree with you there. Aaron, I think that's why Moyes likes Fab, because he slows the game down. I don't want the game to slow down. Where Areola doesn't, he releases it quickly. Why slow the game down? I don't know. Shrudge, I hope it will click with Paquetá. He's being turned into a Brazilian David Bay. I think that's his game, actually, Shrudge, to be honest with you. What an insult. The Brazilian David Batty. Let's just start make a song about him. You're the Brazilian David Batty. God, GP, will he get it? That's Rich coming from Stell, who's 60 but looks 40. I am. Mark, I don't know what that was in an answer to, but anyway. Mark, Cooper would be the next to go if Leeds beat Forest. That will mean only Moyes left. Moyes left. I don't know. Clive, going to bed, guys. I'm listening on the TV, but too tired to read and chat. No problem at all, mate. Have a good night. I hope you're well. Garino, beggars belief that Moyes does not trust Areola, but always picks Soucek. Obviously, form does not come into it. It baffles me. It really does. James, Fabs looks like a better Premier League keeper to me. Areola doesn't look so flash at crosses. Interesting point. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, mate. No. I still want Areola to be our number one. Troch, he was carrying not so couldn't iron his jeans. Is that about Scamacca? Lee Emery. I'm sure all the unhappy players are hanging around waiting for Moyes to get sacked. If that doesn't happen, I'm sure there'll be a line of people knocking on his door. I think I do worry. I do actually worry that I think we will lose a number of players at the end of the season if Moyes is going to be kept on. I agree with that. Let's scroll down. What are we up to? I'm 15 minutes behind on the chat. Garino, dear God, are we really going to see Antonio, Soucek, Fabianski playing their 40s because Moyes trusts them? Yes. Jack, still, you keep saying 10 games to go, but we have 15 if we go. I know, not 15. Hang on a minute. There's 11 games left in the league. 2, 4, 5, 6, 16 games left in total until we get to the final and win it. 11 games in the league, another 5 games in the Conference League. When I say 10 games to go, I'm talking about the Premier League. You know that. By the way, Jack, people said earlier on, someone made a comment earlier on that we're only getting 2,000 tickets for the Europa Conference League final. I said, no way. That sounds far too low. I suggested at least 4,000, if not more than that. So if you know, mate, just put a little number in the chat. GP, 34, so you don't remember Funhouse. Who's 34? I'm not 34. Sharky, you're 34. He is young, isn't he? Look at that bastard. Oh, by the way, just to remember, Happy Hammer 89. I met you out in Cyprus. I said I'd give you a shout, and I didn't. So Hammer 89, how are you? I hope you're well. I saw James at the Premier Inn yesterday. He took a photo with me. Thank you for that, James. Much appreciated. Other guys, I've forgotten their names, who did a little video for me as we were going to Manchester on the train on the way up. Hello to you as well. All the other people that said hello. Really lovely. If you do see me, I'm a short little bastard, so come and say hello. Usual suspect. Harry Kane went down like it was an attempted murder. I bet there's an awful lot of us in this chat. No, I better not say it. Garino, anyone seen Last of Us? We're about to start watching it, so don't spoil it for us. What is the name of the fungus that takes control of people and takes over their minds? Asking because I know this Scottish guy. Flamer. Scamacca Rice Paquetá will leave if Moyes is still here. I don't think they'd want to stay. I really don't. Razor. Paquetá and a top performance with Fabianski. Moyes can go back to Scotland and retire when he's sacked, and we go to Aussie land. Wouldn't you go, Razor? If let's say Moyes wins the Europa Conference, keeps us up, and goes to cock a hoop to Australia, aren't you going to want to go out there and watch cheer him on? Aaron, notice you didn't make an appearance at West Ham. I didn't. They offered me a time, but I couldn't do it. Unfortunately, the time that they offered me, I had to go and see my mum, so they didn't have another time to do it. But I did do a show on Saturday morning. I did it about the predictions for the games, and I promoted the Irons Supporting Food Bank. So yeah, no, they offer. I couldn't make the time, unfortunately, so I missed out. Garino. Players playing like zombies, fighting unnatural urges to do things they don't want to like defend. Good evening, 40. How are you? What a goal from Keane. Spurs being Spurs. Good. Well, I'm actually glad they didn't win, to be honest with you. I remember Tony Blackburn up Benji's at I was worried what you were saying there. I remember Tony Blackburn up Benji's at Mile End. How old are you? Good evening, English Yardy. How are you? You can't blame Scamacca. It's Moyes. He's the worst manager in the Premier League. Did you see Ings yesterday running around like a headless chicken? I feel sorry for him. Moyes devalues players. I don't understand why he bought Ings if he weren't going to, Moyes said, I bought this player because, he scores goals, et cetera, et cetera. And then you don't use even him in the right way. I felt sorry for Ings. He looked like he was lost out there. And it's no fault of his own, to be honest. Rodgers creeps me out. Why? Why did Rodgers creep you out? Jerry, Iwobi is looking good. Didn't think I would say it. I would like to see him at West Ham. Well, let's see who goes down and which players we can nick from teams that get relegated. Who else have we got there? Mandy, how are you? Late to the show, but always welcome. 2 London teams are currently playing without a manager. When did that last happen, Stel? Are you going to tell me? Because I don't know. Christ, I actually don't know. Go on. There's a question for everyone. If anyone is a bit of a historian, when was the last time 2 London teams have played without a manager? Good question. Ralph Garino, I actually think Rice may have stayed if Moyes had used the players correctly. If we had a better season, I think I wonder if he would have stayed. But anyway, Razor again, midnight in Africa. Good show. Thank you very much. And must now down my sorrow. Still, Scottish Allardyce is still here, and Rodgers is not. Thank you for watching, Razor. Always a pleasure. You keep me smiling. Garino, hope Cornet starts on Wednesday. We need pace and someone who is direct. For the love of God, no Socek. Give the poor guy a break. Put Lanzini or Fornals in there. Good evening to you, Fo. How are you? Nice of you to join, mate. Anthos, there is no other way of playing for Moyes. So clueless, just annoys me so much when I see him at press conferences and the touchline. Huge. Good evening to you. Hi, Stel. I do think our fans will let the team down. Leeds, Everton fans get behind their team. Regardless, our fans turn against them. It's a hard one, isn't it, Huge? Because the fans want to go and support. Of course, you want to go to a game and support a team without a shadow of a doubt. But even I couldn't bring myself to cheer much at the weekend on Sunday. It was awful. It really was. I think the worst that's happened for me so far this season is the away game at Brighton when the away fans finally turned on Moyes. And I never thought I'd actually see that happen. But a 4-0 drubbing, fans are going to be upset. I get what you're saying. But what's happening with the likes of Leeds and other teams, etc., is that the managers of those teams are trying to get those teams to actually put effort in terms of trying to go for it. So it's got something, it gives the fans something to cheer about. When you see what's happening with Moyes, and I'm saying it, I admit it now, it's taken me a while to do so. But when you see a manager putting out our team to defend, nothing to cheer about. There's no atmosphere. Moyes talking about, the fans are important, etc. Give us something to cheer about. I'm not talking about being like an open book, just letting teams run riot and beat us, etc. I'm talking about showing some effort, giving the team the opportunity to show some effort. And I think that's a shame because it makes it flat. It was so flat at the weekend. Really, really flat in the game. Garino again, good info. Everything West Ham excluded. All good, everything West Ham excluded. Anthony, Moyes forgets to charge up Frank and Soucek before matches. Huge again. Those teams are just as crap as us. The tables don't lie. I totally agree. The tables don't lie. But like I said a moment ago, they're trying to get their teams out to go out and win games. And it feels like that's not happening with us. Steve, hi again, still back again. Sorry, was checking my mum. Mate, I hope she's okay. I really do. My best wishes to her. I hope she's okay. Mandy, Cornet needs game time. Any other manager gets him on with 15 to play. I think he's going to play some part of the game on Wednesday night. I really do. Jonathan, everyone wants Paquetá to be Ronaldinho, but he's much more like a Dunga. I like him. I swear. I thought it was a pleasure not only to watch all his, little flicks and all that sort of stuff, but getting his foot in. I like that. I like that in a player. Darren, winning a cup is good because people will remember winning that and coming fifth in the league, than coming fifth in the league. Yeah, I agree, but not to the expense of us going down. Abu, good evening to you. I've since changed my mind on Areola being number one. I think Fabianski's better, a better shot stopper, and ultimately is the better keeper in that he keeps the ball out of the net. Well, yeah. Steve again. Honestly, still, I don't give a damn about the conference. I won't be, to be honest, until we are safe. We're almost safe. Paul, as fans, we want to see entertaining and attacking football by getting us off our seats, cheering and singing our team along. But this consistent, boring defending style played with Moyes is so negative. I agree. Areola is better at certain things, Abu. But as an example, that save Fab made straight after we scored, I think Areola doesn't save that, and we possibly even go to lose the game. I disagree. I still remember the fantastic save Areola made, point-blank save against Seville, which kept us in the Europa League last season. He can make point-blank saves, and I think Areola would have saved that. I think they've both got good attributes, but if you want to move forward for me, it's got to be Areola for me. I think he's just as good. I thought it was. Thank you very much. Paul N, good show, Stel. I've got a Greek Cypriot mate living in the UK. He's been ordered to go home and serve 6 months in the Greek army. Poor bastard. Yeah. I didn't think they still did that. But what is he? Has he got a Greek passport or has he got a British passport? But oh yeah, it's not pleasant. The Greek army, to be quite honest with you. Epic. The two teams that reached final have received 4,000 each. I thought so. Well, I don't know if that's been confirmed yet, but it's certainly 4. Certainly not. It's more 4 than it is 2,000, without a doubt. Abu again. I think Potter could get the best out of our players like Paquetá, Scamacca, and Ings. GP. Katy Perry said she's a hammer, but when she's with Brand, I assume. Yeah, Russell Brand is a hammer. Katy Perry's a hammer as well, apparently. Quite a lot of Hammers fans that are famous. Martin, The Last of Us is some of the best TV I've seen. Don't tell me what, I'm going to start. We haven't started watching it yet. I've heard it's very, very good. GP. Foe remembers the black and white 1940s style hostage. I do have it somewhere. I've found it, but you're never going to see it again. Believe me. Right, let's go down. Garino. Someone needs to put that still on. You ain't going to get on loop and watch us win every remaining game. I might put it out as a little special. I wonder how many views I'd get. About 4. Pete, here's a question. How many English managers have won the Premier League? I actually don't know. Who can answer that one? Martin, I'm also watching the Mayor of Kings. Here we go. See, it's the happy hour now. We've stopped talking about football. We're talking about other things. I'm also watching the Mayor of Kingstown on Paramount. It's really good. Thank you for that. I'll look that one up. Garino, Stella, if you're about to watch The Last of Us, no spoilers, but the fungus did. Martin, I had to go to the doctor on Friday with a throat infection. I was told it was a fungal infection. I hope you're all right, mate. I hope you get over it soon. Steve, Stel, maybe you should get a female co-host to keep up with your chat. Then again, don't think your missus would agree. I wouldn't mind getting... the Monday nights are difficult, but Friday nights, yeah, if someone wants to come on and be a co-host for a while, then you're welcome to message me and let me know. Greek passport, yeah, poor bastard. It's not pleasant. It ain't. Aidan. Hey, Stel, you should release a silent film with a piano soundtrack. I don't know if anyone managed to see that the other week. I did this show. I put it out and I thought that was good. It took about 5 takes. I can't remember. It was about Alan Irvin. It took about 5 takes. Put it out in the morning. What happened? Forgot to turn the sound on. There you go. That's why it was so good, because you couldn't bloody hear me. Moyes is a fun guy. E. Davis, Scamacca probably left to start recovery to be fit midweek. John, has anyone seen Stella Lanzini in the same room? I'm usually on the bench, you bastard. Sharky, no English manager has won the Premier League. Kind of depressing. There you go. That's it. And I'll finish off with that. Hit the like button. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the bell notification to let you know when I'm next on. Thank you very much for watching. It's been a pleasure doing it. Greece has an army. No, it's a Cypriot army, which is even worse. Thank you all for watching. Much appreciated. We'll be back again soon. I don't know what I'm doing. I've got a really, really busy week at work because the shit's hit the fan. But that's another story. I'll be looking out to do something. Certainly we'll try and do something for the Newcastle game, even if it's a bit of a live stream during the game, after the game, before the game, something like that. Hopefully back on Friday night. I will let you know if I'm on the Friday late night. I'm going to try and arrange that as well. And then, of course, we've got the game on Saturday against Fulham. So I'll probably do something about that too. Thank you all for watching. Have a wonderful week. 3 points out of the relegation zone. Still in Europe. What's not to like? Moyes in. That'll piss a few of you off. Have a great week, and I'll see you all very soon.